So, good day to each and everyone, to my buddies, and especially to our instructor, sir. Good day. Before I proceed to my discussion, let me introduce myself first. I am Mark Vincent Agon, a B Scheme 3 student, which is under from Block 7. So, our topic for today is all about drug and drug test. So, before we're going to proceed with the entire discussion, let us know first what is drugs. So, all the references when we talk about drugs, which I presented from this PowerPoint presentation, were all based from our previous project, which is all about the discussion about drugs. So, let us know first what is drugs. Drugs are a chemical substance, that affects a person in such a way as to bring about physiological, emotional, and behavioral change. So, we talk about drugs, it is a chemical substance nga pwede maka-apekto in our way of physiological sa itong pangutok, and our way of emotional, and how about we feel, and how we behave, or in our behavioral aspect. So, another terminology, it is a chemical substance that can change how your body and mind works. As what I have said, because it can really affect our physiological, emotional, and behavioral. So, it could also affect or change how our body works and mind also works. So, it is derived from the French word drogue, which means a dry herb, because from the past times there was no advent of technology, or there is no an evolution of science. So the traditional way of treatment is by using dry herbs. So that's why drugs is derived from the French word drogue, which means dry herb. Okay, so there are types of drugs. So what are the types of drugs? We have depressant, hallucinogens, and stimulants. So let us know first what is depressant. So depressants are those drugs which, if you are going to take this one, it slows down the function of the central nervous system. So slow down it really affects your central nervous systems, which means nga the functions of your central nervous systems are getting slow. So depressant, it slow down our nervous systems. So, examples are alcohol. So, dito malikan kung mahubog ka is murag kag maluya. So, next is hallucinogens. Hallucinogens is once you take these drugs, it affect your senses and change the way you see, hear, taste, smell, or feel things. So, from the word hallucinogens, so there's a presence of hallucination. So, laylahi na ang imong badungog, laylahi na imong makita, laylahi na imong ma-feel because of hallucination. Just like for example, if you are taking too much drugs, then it really affects your senses. Para nimo ikaw na si Superman, laylahi na imong makita, laylahi na imong madungog. So there's a presence of hallucinations. Third is the stimulants. So kung natay depressants, naputay stimulants, which is its opposite, because stimulants, once you take this kind of drug, it speed up the function of the central nervous system. So, just like for example, caffeine. Caffeine is commonly found in coffee. So, kung mabantay na to, kung minom tag kape, is dugay na makatog. So, it means stimulants, it speeds up our central nervous system. It is opposite from the depressant. So, before we're going to proceed with our drug test, let us know that drugs has two types. It might be harmful or helpful. When can we say that it is helpful? Helpful in the means that it helps us treat our illnesses and diseases. When we can say that it is harmful if you take some drugs which is not prescribed by the doctors, or you take so much dosage of the drugs that leads to drug abuse, or might be drug addiction. So, what is drug test? Drug test looks for the presence of one or more illegal or prescription drugs in your urine, blood, saliva, hair, or sweat. So let us try to connect this drug test and criminal justice system. Just like for example, a perpetrator in a crime scene is commit siya og crime, but for him ingon siya nga, no, I am not liable from the crime what I have committed. It's because nakuno siya sense of imbecility, wherein ang iyang pangutok is between 2 to 7 years under pa ko sa kuan revised penal code, which is all about the exempting circumstances. Dili ta maka value largo ana, wherein kung usa ka investigator, you will conduct some forensic chemistry and toxicology test. I-test nimo kung tinuod ba nga imbecile siya. So basin da itog na presence of drugs. So arita mo proceed sa drug test, which is a test na to kung there is a presence of one or more illegal or prescription drugs. How can we test this one? It might be from our urine, blood, saliva, hair, or sweat. Okay, so what is the main purpose of having a drug test? Well, the main purpose of having drug test is this test can detect niya ang presence of drugs such as marijuana, cocaine, opiates, methamphetamine, amphetamines, PCP, benzodiazepine, barbiturates, methadone, tricyclic, antidepressants, ecstasy, and oxycodone. So, ang purpose sa drug test is ma-determine niya kung there is a presence of drugs. Just like for example, so gata ganina nga example, ingon siya nga imbecile siya. But later on, the application of the drug test ang gibot is positive siya for shabu, or which is considered as a drugs. Therefore, he is liable for the crime he committed because he is not imbecile. Instead, he committed a crime and result of the effect of the said drugs. So how does the drug test conducted? So as what I have said earlier, that drug test can be done by the use of urine, blood, sweat, and others. So according to my sa inquire information in the international network or the internet, which is the Carlson Company LLC, there are various types of drug testing methods. So there are various methods in drug testing. So what are those? The tips below should help you with an instant overview of the several types of drug test. So we have urine test for drug use, hair test for drug use, saliva test for drug use, blood test for drug use. So kaning urine, hair, saliva, and blood, important part of the body, since pwede na nato gamiton sila for us to trace if there's a presence of drugs in your body. So pwede ta magamit og ihi, pwede ta magamit og buhok, pwede ta magamit og laway, and pwede ta magamit og dugo. So to further elaborate these 4 methods of drug testing, let us try to jump into next slide. So if you're not used to exploring information about drug testing, you almost certainly wish to know some quick factual statements about the several types of drug testing methods. So kung wala ka kabalo nga pwede day gamiton nato ang buhok, pwede day gamiton nato ang ihi, pwede day gamiton nato ang singot or dugo in drug testing, so kindly listen to my discussion. So urine test or ihi, pwede makita or ma-detect ang drugs in our urine or ihi. So it is the most administered kind of drug test. Kaning urine test, it is the most commonly used method of drug testing. Kaning urine test. According to the study, 4.7% of basic US workforce analyzed positive for illicit drugs on a urine test in 2014. So remember, why urine test is considered as the most administered kind of drug test, since it is very common og dali ra siya. And according to the study, can identify months of use for label soluble drugs, example marijuana, and some days for drinking water soluble drugs, example cocaine. So that's why importante ang urine test and it's commonly used. Next method is hair test for drug use. Atong buhok. Sample while hair strands is 100 to 100 strands are extracted from a subject and analyzed. Depending on the number of hair strands used, diagnosis time for all drugs is up to 3 months. The 1.5-inch strand of hair can look back 3 months. Shorter strands have less detection time. So, because of this discussion, we know that ang buhok, dili na siya pa choy-choy, dili na siya pa bibyo o gupit. But, it is also considered as a way for us to determine nga nigamit ka o gusa ka drugs by using hair in drug testing. So, hair test for drug use. Just like that. He used the hair in order to distinguish if there's a presence of drugs. Next method is the saliva test. The saliva test is used by wiping a test swabs inside mouth area to acquire saliva sample. So detects only recent used. Recognition window starts off with a small amount of time after ingestion to 24 to 48 time after ingestion of medication. And the test can be implemented on job site by non-lab personnel. So how to perform saliva test is magamit ka wiping a test swab inside mouth area to acquire saliva sample. Just like for example, kani mura siya nagamit og cotton buds nga gi-wipe out sa tongue in order to gather some saliva para use in drug testing in order to determine if there's a presence of drugs in your saliva. So that is the third method of drug testing. The last is the blood test for drug use. The blood test is sketched by medical personnel. It is used to reliably find the latest used. Detection home window starts from short time after ingestion up to 7 days. Actual detection home window depends upon medication being analyzed for. Mostly useful to tell if one is intoxicated during the test, like following a workplace incident. So, kung mabantayan ninyo or nadunggan ninyo nga kasagaran daw sa mga drug users of there is a upcoming drug test is moinom og mga something like Alpine daw kay para dili daw ma-test nga nagamit sila og shabu or other drugs. So that's why kung usa ka expert in drug testing o ikaw mo conduct sa drug test, i-consider nimo kung asay mas better nga gamiton. Hair ba, blood ba, sweat or saliva or urine in order nga nakay valid evidence or result nga pwede magamit nimo sa court or in other circumstances. So that's the picture. So before I end my discussion, let's conclude my discussion again. Drugs is a chemical substance that can affect our physiological, emotional, and behavioral aspect. And there are 3 types of drugs. We have the depressants, hallucinogens, and stimulants. And also, there are harmful and helpful drugs. When we talk about harmful, it can harm our body. When we talk about helpful, it helps our bodies in terms of medication and treatment for our diseases and illnesses. So, the purpose of drug test is to determine if there's a presence of drugs in the body. So, there are 4 types or methods of drug testing used. We have the urine test, we have the blood test, we have the sweat and the saliva. But commonly, the most used method of drug testing is urine. So, I hope you understand more about this discussion. Once again, I am Mark Benson Magon, one of the students from Block 7 BE Scheme 3. Thanks for watching and God bless.